Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy. Now, we start off today's broadcast with news from Abilene, Texas. Now, as shocking as it may seem, two Abilene, Texas men are turning a bar into a church and will be soon holding services there. One of the inventors says the idea came to him while talking and praying with people over a drink, and they admit that people have had bad experiences with churches, and this may give them the opportunity to open up.
Now, the visionaries say that they are not telling anyone to overindulge in alcohol, but they are also not telling them to stop drinking, but rather encouraging people to get full of Jesus. Yeah. Now, the first service inside the bar will be held Sunday, March 24th.
All right. A European study found that people who eat a lot of processed meats, now take a note of the meats that they're mentioning here, because there are specific meats like bacon, ham, and salami. They tend to have an unhealthy lifestyle and are more likely to smoke and to eat fewer vegetables and fruits, and often have a greater chance of earlier death. Those who ate as little as 2 sausages and a piece of bacon increased the risk of dying of heart disease by nearly 70% and dying from cancer by 11%. Those are staggering numbers.
Now, some cancer experts advise avoiding processed meats altogether. Now, the authors of this study suggest rather eating smaller amounts of red meat rich in nutrients and minerals, which they say appear to be beneficial. But of course, it has to be the right red meats.
That's correct. You can't eat kangaroo, even though it might be red meat. It's not beneficial. Now, another crippled cruise ship, ironically named the Carnival Dream, caused stress and unrest to its nearly 4,300 stranded passengers who boarded in Florida headed for St. Martin. Intermittent power outages caused elevators to shut down, and it caused the toilets to malfunction. Reminiscent of the recent Carnival Triumph cruise, the ship that lost power, stranding people for days in terrible conditions such as overflowing toilets and people sleeping on deck.
Now, so far, 17 of the Carnival Triumph passengers filed suit today in federal court alleging negligence on the part of Carnival Cruise Lines. Carnival Dream passengers were flown back to the U.S., given a partial refund and a 50% discount on the next cruise.
I don't think they're going to be taking a cruise anytime soon.
I don't think so. Now, next, we turn our focus to Larry McGee, who has our story on the largest pharmaceutical disaster in the past 10 years. Larry, what's the status on this so far?
48 people are dead and hundreds are receiving treatment after one of the worst pharmaceutical incidents in recent history. It began last fall when a pharmacy called New England Compounding Center, or NECC for short, shipped a contaminated steroid to 23 states. The steroid produced by NECC was injected into almost 14,000 citizens seeking relief from pain. The compound, however, was contaminated with fungus, and this is a sample of the fungus growing inside the spinal fluid of one of the patients. Many of the patients or victims have been hospitalized repeatedly over the months, receiving treatment with agonizing antifungal medications, which one patient described as unbearable, and to which another attributes hallucinations, which included distorted faces and flying body parts. NECC was exempt from any FDA oversight because it was supposed to be just a compounding pharmacy, limited by law to producing specialty drugs for individuals, one prescription at a time. Why then had it shipped 17,000 vials of toxic steroid? A former salesman for NECC, speaking on the condition of anonymity, says the company sent drugs throughout the nation to 3,000 hospitals and clinics, and the necessary prescriptions were often fraudulent. clinics provided pages of false names as obvious as John Doe and as outrageous as Homer and Bart Simpson. According to the salesman, clients were fully aware of the illegal nature of their purchases. But if you're a buyer, he asked, who is looking to cut costs, and you can purchase a product at half price, well, what are you going to do? According to the salesman, many buyers these days will take the 2-for-1 using NECC. The New England Compounding Center was recently shut down, and its president, Barry Cadden, is the target of a criminal investigation. But despite all of this, the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry is showing no signs of a change of mind. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Appreciate your report, Larry. Unsettling.
Yes, most definitely. Now, a little farther east in Europe, the Vatican is more than the world's largest religious institution. It's a business in trouble. Backroom financial scandals at Vatican Inc., such as the secret accounts held at the Vatican Bank who service priests, employees, and various church departments. An Italian court investigating the bank found some accounts had been used for money laundering, bribe money to political parties in Italy, and even mafia-related activities.
Now, the European Union insisted the bank open its accounts to public scrutiny, and when it was too slow in doing so, the bank's credit card facilities were shut down, and tourists and visitors were not allowed to use plastic to purchase their tickets to the Sistine Chapel. Now, $30 million of Vatican money in Italian banks was seized and only released when the church promised to reform.
Still, the bank keeps many of its matters private, and even South African Cardinal Wilfred Napiers, who sits on the committee that is supposed to sign off on the Vatican's book, says even he cannot get the information he needs. Even former Pope Benedict issued a papal edict to try to get the bank to modernize, but it's still secretive and remains one of the major issues the new pope will have to face.
Well, during the Great Recession, banks were deemed too big to fail. But as we learned then, when big banks make dumb mistakes, the fall guy can be the American taxpayer. Now, that's why Congress and the FBI are investigating a massive blunder by JPMorgan Chase.
That's right. Last May, JPMorgan said a series of bad trades cost it $2 billion. But 6 days later, it said it was $3 billion. In July, the bank admitted to $5.8 billion. Yes, in October, it reported that it had actually lost $6.2 billion of its own money. Boy, how quickly things change. How did that happen to a bank where executives boast about their talent for controlling risk?
Well, the star witness of the Senate hearing, former Chief Investment Officer Ina Drew, oversaw the JPMorgan Chase unit that racked up more than $6 billion in losses in an epic trading blunder. Now, Drew, who was forced to resign last year, said clearly mistakes were made. She also blamed the London unit responsible for the trade, saying he minimized reported and projected losses and hid from me the important information regarding the true risks of the book. And of course, hard to do your job if you don't have all the information.
That's correct. Senators said the nation's largest bank also hid the size of its growing losses from government regulators at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. The Senate chairman addressed the bankers saying, "Your internal report showed $1.2 billion in losses, according to your records, but you told the OCC that the losses were $580 million.
A new 300-page Senate report that examined 90,000 bank documents found that JPMorgan Chase ignored its own internal controls and risk levels. In one phone call, Bruno Ixel, the so-called London whale who executed the huge derivative bets that led to the losses, said, "I can't keep this going, and I don't know where my boss wants this to stop, but it's getting idiotic."
Economists say the laws are a little bit complicated when it comes to things like this, but it does appear that there was a willful effort by JPMorgan to conceal the size of its losses and to slow the reporting. The FBI is investigating the case. The Senate report says the bank's pushback extended to the top levels of JPMorgan Chase. One banker even screamed at examiners and called them stupid.
Well, we go from Wall Street incompetence to Wall Street deceit. Now, today we learned that 2 affiliates of a hedge fund called SAC Capital will pay more than $615 million to settle charges of insider trading. The government says that 2 affiliates of SAC learned confidential information about 4 companies and then traded in them before the public had the same information. A criminal investigation is still underway.
Now, as the UN approves tough new sanctions, a new sharp warning of all-out war comes from North Korea. Thousands upon thousands of North Koreans rallied today around a North Korean general delivering that stunning threat, a first-strike nuclear attack with a vow to engulf Washington, D.C. in a sea of fire.
Now, they're threatening a nuclear preemptive attack, which has never been done before. The new young Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, is now lashing out against the South Korean and U.S. military exercises and today's new stiff UN sanctions. Now, analysts say North Korea is still years away from perfecting a nuclear weapon, but they're getting closer all the time. Now, Katan, keep in mind, those were the same analysts that said they couldn't fit the bomb on top of the missile, and then 2 weeks later, they were able to do so and tested it.
Yeah, that's a little scary. Even though North Korea does not yet have a missile capable of hitting the continental U.S., you have to take this seriously, and of course, America says that it is. We already have satellites in space, he said, radars at sea and on the ground designed to detect a missile launch. Then dozens of intercepting missiles could be fired from California and Alaska to take out enemy missiles, even nuclear ones before they reach America. But he continued, the system is far from foolproof.
Now, however, the immediate threat from North Korea is far more conventional. They could fire on South Korea, America's ally, like they've done before. The president of Plowshare Fund said, this is how wars start. Threats become maneuvers, then they become exchanges, they're met with more retaliation, and pretty soon you have World War I or Vietnam. Now, this is also a renewed concern here tonight about these mobile missile launchers in North Korea, which could fire rockets capable of hitting South Korea. Now, there is nothing imminent, but these threatening statements, of course, have everybody on edge.
Yes, I would imagine. In response to the escalating nuclear tension with North Korea, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said he is deploying more missiles on American soil against the chance of an incoming threat. Hagel said North Korea, in particular, has recently made advances in its capabilities and has engaged in a series of irresponsible and reckless provocations.
Now, 14 interceptor missiles designed to shoot down an incoming nuclear warhead will be added to the 30 already based in Alaska and California at a cost of $1 billion. Now, how much added security will that buy is subject to debate due to their less than consistent test records.
Interesting. U.S. intelligence does not believe North Korea has a missile capable of reaching the U.S. at this time, but the sight of a mobile intercontinental ballistic missile parade last year heightened concerns they are working very hard to develop one. Former Defense Secretary Robert Gates once said North Korea could have an ICBM by 2016. However, the extra interceptor missiles to shoot it down won't be in place until 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely not going to want to put your stock in that.
That's for
but
sure.
There is something that you can trust in, and that's the message that's coming here from Yisrayl Hawkins.
Hold on there, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you. This just in. Apparently, Yisrayl Hawkins and the House of Yahweh have just sighted the new moon in Abilene, Texas, the first moon, the moon of Abib, which sets the feast for Passover.
And I think, Katan, I think they're coming in with the video right now. Prepares for war, the House of Yahweh is preparing for another eternal appointment.
Now, if you haven't already, you can write the House of Yahweh to request your free copy of the Prophetic Word magazine or the monthly newsletter by writing the House of Yahweh P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. Or you can call them at 1-800-613-9494. And don't forget to visit them on the web at www.yahweh.com. And if you'd like to send an email, you can write them at info@yahweh.com. And for all other calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen.
Don't go anywhere. Up next is Yisrayl Hawkins, giving you hope in a dying world. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katana Alexander.
Thanks for watching.